AI's gonna launch the nukes next year anyway,
right?
so.
Which way do you want me to run the other way?
Run towards the sun.
Go.
We're as easily entertained as a fucking dog.
We're no better than
Oh. I saw my reflection in the thing. I just have one question for you today. Do you like pancakes? Because I have a pancake lens. It might taste a little worse than any pancakes you've eaten, and it's probably older than any pancakes you would eat. But this is a vintage Nikon 50mm f1.8. It's a manual lens. And I've also been kicking around with this thing, an old Nikon FE. It's a film camera. And I was thinking, man, I really want to go take some film photos. But there's just one problem. Film is very expensive. So at the time that this was rattling around in my water-filled head, a company called Dehancer reached out to me. They make plugins for Premiere, DaVinci, Resolve, Lightroom, Photoshop, and it's a film emulation plugin. You can choose from a whole bunch of different film stocks and create realistic-looking film images. Full disclosure, they did offer me a license to one of their plugins, but they also do not get to review this video before it goes up. I am allowed to say whatever I want about this plugin, and I intend on doing that. So everything just sort of lined up. I figured I would get this adapter and throw this lens on one of my Sonys and go out and see if I could take some vintage looking photos and then apply an even more vintagey look in post. Just for fun, right before we jump into the video, let's throw this lens on the A7 IV and see what it looks like. What do you think about that? How does that wiggle your pickle? This is the Nikon 50mm, and I also have a little haze filter on it, so it probably looks a little bit softer. But this whole video is going to be graded with Dehancer, and all of the images were shot on this 50mm lens, and they will also be graded with Dehancer. At the end of the video, after we finish the POV, I'm going to jump into the plugin itself and show you guys how it works. As always, don't forget to keep an eye open for the pug hidden somewhere in this video. If you are the first person to correctly post the timestamp where it's at, I will buy Malcolm a dress, and I will send him to his high school prom so he can meet the love of his life. Let's jump into the video. You might say this isn't a street image, but I might say this bird very well could go by Birdman. You don't know he doesn't. Shut up. And if he does, he's just as much a man as you are. So here we are in this land of Denver yet again. It was very warm this day. It almost felt like summer. I started to sweat a little bit, but I honestly had a very difficult time. I have not shot with an all-manual lens since the Laowa video, maybe, and that was kind of just a goofing around video. This was extremely difficult for me. I have gotten very used to Sony autofocus, and I rely on it heavily, so it was honestly kind of nice to have to second-guess myself. I missed a lot of shots, a lot of them were soft, but even the soft ones I still kind of liked. It took a long time to get some images that I appreciated, but sometimes that's just the way she blows, you know? Anyway, I met up with my buddy Rudy. I actually have a interview video with him that I'll link in the description where I followed him around a couple years ago and watched his process. He's a very awesome photographer, and it's always a pleasure to shoot with him. And I also met up with another guy I know from Instagram, Joshua Bergeron. I'll link both of them in the description as well. They are both fantastic street photographers. So as I said, every single photo in this video is edited with Dehancer. I didn't really apply any Lightroom adjustments at all. I really wanted to see what I could do just with the plugin. So I will be showing the raw images on screen, and then it will change to the Dehancer edits for each one.
I'm still getting used to it on there.
It's tricky, man.
Hard, right?
Just trying to get a feel for like how far is 7 feet, how far is 5 feet.
50 is hard.
Yeah. I really like how this lady was rubbing this old dude's head. I kind of wanted to swing back around and get a closer photo, but she was already giving me the death stare, so we just moved on. I love spring and stuff, but the problem with spring is that, like, if you're in the shade, you're freezing, and if you're in the sun, you're too hot. So, like, you can either wear a jacket or not, but, like, either way, you're going to be uncomfortable at one point or another.
Florida, I grew up in Florida, and that was really hot.
Yeah.
Humid. I like the four seasons. It's cool. Like autumn.
Yeah, it does make it hard to get used to just one or the other.
Yes.
But that's kind of good, too, because, like, when you start to get tired of the heat, it's like, oh, here comes the cool, you know? So. Yeah. I think this is probably the first sharp image I got, and it's probably just because I shot it my normal way where I just sort of stand and let somebody walk in. He's not like an interesting character or anything, but I do really love the light hitting him. Oh, look at these little Frenchies. Little sausages. I really pushed this one far using one of the black and white film stocks in Dehancer, and I applied a very heavy vignette. Maybe it's a little obvious, but I would assume that without seeing the raw file first, you might not even really notice. Oh, I love that lady's hat so much. It's really hard to see.
Oh, you did get.
It's like, never think about it, I guess.
Excuse me. You have a YouTube channel?
Yeah,
Are you curious?
I am. Thanks, guys. What's your name?
Ashley.
Well, you know my name, I guess.
Yeah.
And your name?
Edder.
Nice, dude. Nice to meet you guys. Cool. Appreciate it. Those two were super nice and recognized me from this horrifyingly terrible YouTube channel. I just want to say thank you to everybody who watches and apologize to those two for not sticking around and talking to them. It still is very weird to me when people recognize me in public. It's happened a few times and I just still don't think I know how to handle it. So I do apologize, and I definitely still appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I mean, I could make them fly if you guys are ready. Run towards the sun. You gotta stomp. We're as easily entertained as a fucking dog. This little goofy butthole was being quite a silly little puppy turd bucket. I'm honestly surprised I got this image. With just peeking, it's very hard to tell what's actually in focus when you're out at like f8, but still I kind of nailed it, and I got it at just the right time, just taking one exposure of the stick smacking into his silly little face. I do believe this is probably the most important photo of the decade. You just can't deny bananas. Unfortunately, it was a 50mm, so you couldn't see that he was also on a skateboard. It would be very embarrassing if he fell and that banana ended up going down his throat without chewing first. AI's gonna launch the nukes next year anyway, so. You guys heard about that Pope picture that went around?
Yeah, sure.
That, like, everybody thought was real? Like, that's just the first one, dude. I feel like it's ruining the internet. Even the real shit's gonna be like, this is probably fake. Like,
Everything's gonna get well, in addition to what we do,
yeah.
it's gonna be like, well, is it real or is it real?
Exactly. It's like, it's cheapening the real stuff.
Look at this great shot I got. That was
It's like, oh, it's too perfect.
yeah.
Yeah. before it's gone.
Hopefully there'll always be a place for real photographers.
I really honestly think like we're gonna keep each other alive, at least for like YouTube and stuff. Like I feel like people that subscribe to like photographers on YouTube are almost always other photographers.
Yeah.
So it's like we kind of support each other in that way, especially with street. Most normal people don't even know what street is, you know? Yeah, it really is.
I tell the homeless people that will go, like, oh, you take pictures of the iPhone?
Yeah, exactly. Back to the Bell Theater, which is where me and Ty ended up towards the end of one of my past videos. And finally, this place is open and there's plenty of people about. I came here a whole bunch during the pandemic and it was just always empty. And since I didn't really start shooting until the pandemic, I never really saw what this place had to offer. But when these shows let out, it's just hordes of people, and the light coming through these rafters can sometimes look really cool as long as the sun is out. If you ask me why I screwed this one up so bad, even though they were standing still, I honestly couldn't tell you. They are vastly out of focus. I really enjoy this one. This older couple being all probably married and stuff, and the light hitting them in the back was just really nice. There's nice soft light on their faces as well, and then the Dehancer stuff really helped bring it into that analog feel. Well, that was the last photo, but don't go anywhere just yet. I want to jump into Dehancer and show you guys how it works. And of course, you can witness this beautiful angle where you can look directly up my nose and into the cavernous void that is my head. So I'm just going to take one photo that I got. So I chose this one because it's nice and sharp and has some really nice lighting. So this is the raw file, and just like opening something from Lightroom into Photoshop, you're going to right click on it down here and go to Edit in Dehancer. Now this is pretty cool. It saves the last edits that I applied using Dehancer, and I don't know if it's just my system, but during the course of editing all these photos for this video, it was not saving any of my settings, which was actually super annoying. The screen would be super small, and I would have to manually go in and select my GPU every time, but I mean, that could have just been a me problem, and that might not even affect you guys if you don't batch edit photos like I do for videos. But anyway, that might not affect you, but I figured I'd throw that in there because it was quite annoying. Right off the bat, up here you'll notice presets and profiles. The presets are made by the Dehancer team. These are pretty nice, really good, probably ending point honestly, but they also have profiles, and this is where you'll find all the different film simulations. It's a lot of really nice ones. I think my favorite, and the one that I use grading this video and in most of these photos, are these AGFA colors up here, especially this Portrait XPS. But the thing I think that I like about Dehancer the most is that it sort of fits into my Lightroom workflow. You can open straight from Lightroom, and then it's basically just like using Lightroom. Everything's on the right side over here. They're all sliders. So if we start here, we've got our exposure compensation. These are just like basic adjustments. You can change the color temperature. You can even double click to return it to 0, just like in Lightroom. I really like that. This really reminds me of like an analog Lightroom, basically. So you'll turn them on, and then you can adjust the parameters that are underneath it. So I'm probably going to pull a little bit of color boost out of this one. You've got your black point and white point down here for a little added contrast. And what's really cool is you can change the print film, and these have drastic changes to how it looks. I think my favorite is probably this glossy one. It sort of fits my style the best. And then right here in the print type, you can bring back saturation a little bit more. This is probably where I spent the most time, is in this film grain section here. So as you can see, this one has a ton of grain, and I'll probably dial back the size, the amount a little bit for just a little bit of a cleaner image. And you can increase the resolution, and this is something that I want to show you here. It realistically interacts with the resolution of your photo with the film. So instead of something like in Photoshop where you'll just sort of put an overlay, this actually realistically seems to communicate with the content in your photo, and you can actually raise the grain just in the shadows, just in the midtones, just in the highlights. And a lot of this stuff you can do in Photoshop. It's just going to take you a lot longer, where all of this stuff is just a slider in Dehancer. So I honestly really appreciate that. Halation and bloom work the same way. They actually sort of seem to analyze the lights and darks of the photo and apply them accordingly. Again, lots of options here. If you turn on this mask mode, you can actually see where the halation and bloom are going to be applied. Again, you can do all this in Photoshop, but you'll need luminosity masks or complicated selections that are just going to take a lot more time, where with this, you can really just sort of throw it right where you want it, save it as a preset, and just act like you shot a whole roll of film, basically. I like to add a pretty fatty vignette here. And after the vignette, I'm going to go back and increase the white point a little bit more again. And just a touch of exposure compensation. And then when you're done, you just hit OK. It throws it next to the raw file in Lightroom, just like when you exit Photoshop. So this is by no means a cheap plugin. In case you haven't noticed, film has gotten very expensive as well. I mean, you could be paying up to $2 per photo with film. I understand why people shoot film. It's a true analog process. It's like the feel of the shutter click, the feel of rolling the film, rewinding it, all that stuff. But this is why I love digital. You can go literally anywhere creatively after you take the photo, and you're not locked into any just one style. So for those of you who really love the film look and don't care as much about the process of shooting film, then this could actually save you some money down the line, jumping into that initial investment, and then you can just literally take and edit unlimited photos. And all of this same level of control is available in the video versions as well. So if you are interested, go ahead and check out the link in the description to go to their website and enter code PUGMALCOLM with 2 L's to save 10% at checkout. And that way you can help fund Malcolm's dream of becoming an astronaut. Thank you guys ever so much for watching. Make sure if you enjoyed this video to click right here and check out another video where I attempted to know what I was doing out in the street. Every time with this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.